Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 17. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us this Friday, Steelers Nation. Dave, good to be back with you, and happy anniversary to you and Mrs. Dave Bryan.
Ooh, I think I got 27 years in. Wow. Or she has. I don't know which one. And bless her heart, she's a saint. So, 27 years today.
All right, well, be sure to wish Dave happy anniversary over on Twitter. We have a jam-packed show for you guys today, talking everything about what happened in Week 1 and previewing Week 2, as the Steelers will have their home opener Sunday against the Denver Broncos. A little bit later in the show, we will have a Broncos beat writer on. That is Ryan O'Halloran, who we used to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now we're talking about the Denver Broncos. He covers the team for the Denver Post, and you can follow him on Twitter at Ryan O'Halloran. That's Alloran. Follow him on Twitter. Let him know that you heard the show. That'll be a little bit later in the podcast. Dave, let's start with one piece of housekeeping, and then we'll kind of move through some other news and notes. The Steelers have rounded out their practice squad by signing John Battle, so that gives them 16 after Curtis Riley got poached by the Cardinals earlier this week. Battle is with the team on a futures contract. He came over from the now defunct, or at least then defunct, XFL, and was from LSU, and then cut at the end of training camp and now brought back. So just a quick note there, the Battle is now the 16th man on the practice squad.
Boy, that's an easy $8,000, $8,400 or whatever it is for him this week, sure, showing up on a Friday, right?
Good point.
In fact, I tweeted out first thing this morning. It looked like they were only going to carry 15 on the practice squad this week because we had yet to hear about any signing there. But at least they got a guy back that they know, they obviously had throughout training camp there. They know a lot about there, and obviously the loss of Curtis Riley to the Cardinals this past week as well too. So got someone back and practice squad back at 16.
All right, let's move on to the injury report, and it looked a little scary. What was that, on Wednesday, I think it was? Things looked a little bit better yesterday. The only two players not practicing yesterday for the Steelers were David Castro with that knee and Steven Wisniewski. They call it a chest. I think it was also a pec injury referred to. And so all the guys, there were 10 guys who didn't practice on Wednesday, and some of them seemed a little scary. Deontay Johnson on the report again, Judy with a knee, Tuitt with an Achilles, which is always a red flag to me. But all those guys were turned in full, including James Conner, who returned in full with that ankle. So it seems like he's very much on track to play Sunday against Denver.
Yeah, it does look like he's very much on track now at this point. And now we'll see how he closes out the week. Obviously on Friday, if he's able to go again. And look, there was that report I think a few days ago that it's not high ankle, which obviously is good for him. I guess the question becomes, will he get the start? And I think we talked about this the other day. I think both of us kind of think that's probably what's going to happen. Although, however, I would imagine that we're going to see a little bit of Benny Snell in this one, maybe a lot of Benny Snell in this one as well too. Personally, I know why Mike Tomlin's probably going to do this. I know this will probably be the end result with Conner starting, but I'm not sure I'd go that same way. I think I would be more inclined to let Benny get to go here.
Yeah, but we know that, obviously Conner very likely to play. I think he's very likely to start. And to your point, I mean, if you want to have that feature back mentality and get somebody warmed up, because I think both backs get better as they get warmed up, then you don't want to be rotating them super heavily. So I think it's an interesting question about exactly what the split's going to be. Snell is obviously going to get some snaps, and he'll be the first man off the bench when Conner needs to be spelled, and they're trusting him more in passing situations, which is big for just expanding his opportunities to play, talking about Benny Snell. But I do think Conner's going to be still the guy until he's not on the field.
And the rest of the injury report there, as you mentioned, good news. The only two that did not practice on Thursday that we're probably not expecting to practice on Friday and thus probably going to be inactive come Sunday is Stefan Wisniewski and David DeCastro. I guess the good news overall, at least heading into the weekend, I guess it could change if they needed a roster spot there, is it doesn't look like Wisniewski's injury is going to be longer than 3 weeks, kind of the attitude we've had with DeCastro being is how he wasn't thrown on IR for a few weeks there. So barring something happening over the weekend here, which I would think that they would already probably made a move by now if they thought it was a little bit longer term than 3 weeks there. But even so, it looks like Stefan Wisniewski and David DeCastro will both miss this game. Obviously, the second one of the season for DeCastro. It would be the first miss of the season for Wisniewski. I think that would make your backup center being J.C. Hassenauer. And I think the other news, obviously, that's being talked about would mean Kevin Dotson getting his first career NFL start at right guard. I think that's kind of what we're expecting at this point. And obviously, that would be alongside Chukwuma Okorafor at right tackle there.
Yeah, and I think I have a little bit more angst about Dotson at right guard than you do, but I'll be honest, after watching Wisniewski against the Giants, I don't know if Dotson can be worse because Wisniewski was the worst lineman of the 5 against the Giants.
I agree, and that's what the All-22 I think showed me as well too. I haven't gone through it as with it being a short week, I haven't gone through it probably as closely as you have. But in fact, my initial reaction was probably Wisniewski was probably the weakest link on that offensive line, just off of the TV tape alone too. And as I've been picking through the All-22, I find that to be the case as well too. I think when it comes to Wisniewski, I think he's a better left guard than he is a right guard, and B, I think he's a better center than he is a guard. But hopefully we won't see too much more of that maybe moving forward here. As far as and that angst seems to be the popular buzzword coming out of yesterday, and Randy Fichtner talking and all like that. When I was a kid, I think my mother had more angst about me learning to swim, and especially more angst than my old man who just threw me into the pool. So
well, they're throwing Dotson into the pool, basically.
Right. So and look, I mean, we didn't get a large sample size, obviously, with Dotson the other night against the Giants, but what little we did see, I liked him. Look, there's going to be certain things that the communication factor with him and Okorafor is going to probably be the biggest concern in how those two function, I think, in pass protection with the whole timing and the levels and the little things that really just a lot of people don't pick up on, initially. A lot of those things when you play with a guy, longer and longer that you pick up on, and the timing and obviously the communication. Yeah, I'm more concerned about that aspect of it, I think, than I am the actual, overall pass blocking and the run blocking. Because, look, this is a kid that played 50-something consecutive games at Louisiana Lafayette there, all at right guard. This isn't new to him. It is at the NFL level, and obviously the level of competition is going to be up there. But personally, and once again, we're only going off of a handful of snaps here from the other night against the Giants. I don't think I have as much angst as I do, and I love guard. You know me and guards.
A pulling guard is a way to your heart.
I mean, just give me a guard that not only can move but can move bodies on top of it. I'm in heaven there. So I'm really anxious. I wouldn't say anxious or have angst. I am excited to see him play, and I'm expecting him to play above the line. Am I expecting him to have some faux pas in there? Yes, but we watched Fred Johnson play, another guy that we were kind of high on. Obviously, I think a year ago, obviously got poached by the Bengals, and he started last night
But how did that go for Fred Johnson?
And that did not go well at all.
No, not at all.
For him, very, very rough game. I expect Dotson to have a much better game, and I would expect to see some power on this. And I expect he's got a fun matchup too against Casey and some of those other big boy bodies in there. And as we talk to Ryan later in this show, I think, and you'd probably agree, the strength of that Bronco defense heading into this game is probably the defensive line overall there. So a fun matchup right out of shoot for Kevin Dotson. But no, I don't have the angst that maybe you have.
Well, no, I agree about the Broncos defensive line. I think it is a strength with guys like Shelby Harris and Casey and Purcell. The run blocking is less of a concern for Dotson because that's his calling card and that's what he can do well. And I think he's just born to be a run blocker. It's everything else. It's the details. It's staying on the same level as a core for passing off stunts, just a good feel and timing for things. And of course, pass protection if you're one-on-one. Those are all the areas where I have the most angst with Dotson. But like I said, I mean, Wisniewski was the worst lineman on the field. And just a quick point on Wiz. I know that he's a center too, and so centers usually aren't 6'5", but when it comes to Steelers and guards, Pittsburgh likes their guards big. You think about Ramon Foster, Matt Filer, David Castro. Wisniewski's not a big guy. He's not a particularly strong guy, and I think that hurts him without being able to create movement and be able to work in pass protection and kind of use some of the size and length to just make yourself a big body to get around, and that's where Wisniewski really struggles. So a lack of size there, which isn't his fault because, again, he's got to be center versatile and capable, is I think the thing that does not make him a great fit for this offense.
Right. You're paying him for his mind and his experience more than anything. You know,
right.
And I think you would agree. And I've kind of thought this from the moment that they signed him. The likely and look, a long way to go here, but the likelihood of him being one and done is high, and the way he played against the Giants, no reason not to believe that right now. Moving forward with him, especially on this team that's going to be a little bit, or a lot bit cap crunched, next off season. And no, he's not making bank, but anywhere that you can probably cut, you're likely to. So yeah, not a great first showing, and now he's injured. And if Dotson plays well, against the Broncos, well, then next time that they need someone, which hopefully isn't a lot, to fill in at one of the two guard spots, it's probably going to be Dotson. Moving forward. At least that's probably what you're probably hoping. You're the Steelers because that means Dotson's shown you something and you can start trusting him moving forward here. So, yeah, I mean, that's it. You want to get out your red marker and circle that one because that's one we're going to definitely probably have a film room on after this game. And once again, you edge rushers, tight ends, and guards, brother. Whew, sign me up.
There you go. One last note, just to make it official, we talked about it, but I don't know if it was 100% official when the move happened on Wednesday. Zach Banner on IR with his knee injury, having surgery basically as we speak here right now on Friday morning, and the team has officially signed Gerald Hawkins to the 53 off the Texans practice squad. So Hawkins, a former fourth-round pick of the Steelers in 2016, traded to Tampa Bay at the end of camp cuts last year, has circled back to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I remain in the minority on this, but I so wish
you're going back to guards.
Yeah,
it's a guard show today.
Yeah, I so wanted him to get at least some sort of look at guard at this point of his career, and I'm not going to beat the dead horse on it at this point too. And look, here's the hope in us not having to see him play. What do you do mid-game though? I guess you have no choice but to make him your swing tackle right now at this point, unless you really wanted to disrupt things and Hassenauer come in at guards should something happen to one of your guards, and then Filer go over to you know what I'm saying there. So I guess they would just stay put with Filer at guard should something happen to a tackle here, right?
Well, you could say that you could train Hawkins at just like one tackle spot and then have a core four swing if you wanted to, but I hate playing musical chairs with that kind of stuff. So he probably is just your true swing tackle at left or the right side. That's my guess. But yeah, options just aren't great right now whenever you have the depth being tested as quickly and as immediately as it has been in Pittsburgh. I'll put aside tackle or guard with Hawkins. I just want to see a healthy Gerald Hawkins because the last time I watched this guy in 2019 in camp, he was not healthy coming off that torn quad. He just did not look like he belonged on the field. So I hope that another year removed from that, he looks a lot healthier because last time I saw him, he was looking as rough as rough can be.
Right. And you can bet this team will probably be watching just, around the league to see if they can maybe upgrade that. But, so will the other 31 teams in the league too when it comes to street, tackles, if you will. It's not.
He's coming back just because he knows the system. I think Randy said that. Like Hawkins went to him and just said, "You guys still run these three things? Yeah, okay, I'm good." Like that's why he's back.
Right. And where else was I going to go with this? I lost my train of thought there. But I remember what it was. Look, we saw this team win a Super Bowl with just some patchwork offensive line in the past and a good defense, right? So it's not the end-all, do-all. And look, the biggest thing here now is can they get through this game? Can we see Dotson hold his own? Can we see Okorafor hold his own in this game? And then can we get to a situation where get the Castro back in this thing moving forward? Because Okorafor has had a couple of starts now previously. They weren't awful, but they also weren't great. So he is a guy though that I think Randy had even said yesterday that and I don't know how much lip service is, didn't lose out by a big margin to Banner. Well, he still lost out. Okay. And that's, more than anything here is now you get a real good look moving forward of what Okorafor is and is not at this point. And we've talked about the uncertainty at the tackle position with the Steelers moving past this year quite a bit here in the last several weeks and all. So now let's just hope these guys can stay healthy.
Yeah, because I know they won a Super Bowl with Darnell Stapleton and Justin Hartwig and all those guys, but if you give that a 38-year-old Ben that line again, he's going to retire as soon as possible. Anyway, all right, Dave, let's go to the Giants. Am I missing anything else housekeeping-wise? I think I've gotten everything. Broncos, anything on the Broncos injury report that's notable? Cortland Sutton's still up in the air. We'll talk with Ryan a little bit about that later in the show.
Yeah, it looks like the Bouye went to IR,
right.
So that's a big blow for them this week. Mark Barron, it doesn't sound like he's going to play. Obviously not a huge blow there, probably not. Philip Lindsay, that's a huge blow for them. Give them that kind of change of pace back. It doesn't look like they're going to have him due to a toe injury. Garrett Bowles over there at left tackle's not 100% right now. They're banged up just as the Steelers are. So it'll be not having Lindsey and not having Bouye. That's pretty big for them. Look, they went out and got Anthony Chicklow. Anthony Chicklow is probably going to be in uniform for them on Sunday as well too.
Although it does sound like he's dealing with some COVID hurdles, so he may not be able to suit up. But they're definitely going to pick his brain for sure. And they have Mike Munchak on his team, so they're going to know the Steelers team pretty well. And that'll be some factor to think about this game. I think Cortland Sutton's the one injury guy that's up in the air that's worth monitoring, because if he's available, then he's one of their top targets. If he's not available, then they'll rely on guys like Noah Fant and Jerry Judy.
Okay.
All right, Dave, before you get to Denver, let's talk about the Giants game now that the All-22 has come out, unfortunately, and I won't bore you with all the ranting and raving that we've done, but the All-22 was released very late this week, not till basically like Thursday morning at 2 o'clock in the morning, and so we're a little behind on that stuff, but just rewatching the game a couple times, maybe making a couple passes through the All-22, Dave, what have you kind of seen, and any differences of opinion or any new thoughts now that you've reviewed the tape again?
Well, we already talked a little bit about the offensive line, right? Let's kind of stay on that aspect of it there. Matt Filer, I think we talked about this the other day. I thought he played well, and after going back through it with a finer tooth comb, I think Filer was the top offensive lineman overall there, and I really liked seeing him on the move, going from left to right. I think we'll see more of that this weekend against the Broncos there. I like the way other than the fumble, Snell, a couple questionable. I think maybe a cut or two or vision issues overall, but not huge there. The run blocking obviously not up to par to where you want it. I don't think that aspect of it can definitely get better there. We talked about schematically wise, liking what they did with switch routes and picks and all like that. So I thought they did a good job with that. I thought Ben warmed up as the game went on. That's another aspect that we picked up on the the other day. Eric Ebron's got some issues with that blocking. I think we knew that going into it. The efforts there, the outcome not so great so far. Probably not going to get too much better there overall moving forward. So that's offensively some of the notes that I have.
Yeah, pretty similar to mine. You saw some safety rotation. You got to see Minka drop down a couple times, and they rotated both Cam Sutton and Mike Hilton to either the deep half or the deep middle to allow Minka to roll down, which is not brand new, though Hilton didn't do it a whole lot last year. So that's good to see. You talking about, again, just having Minka come off the post occasionally. I do like that. Other than that, I did see the unbalance. You mentioned the unbalance. I did see that, or at least on one snap. So
where was that? Where was that? Because I'm thinking I'm losing it here, Alex, because I went back through and I couldn't find it.
They had one where they motioned back to regular balance formation, but the snap they ran it was 132 in the second quarter, where they ran it unbalanced.
Okay, and that was Villanueva on the right?
Correct. Yeah, Villanueva on the right side, extra alignment to that side.
And then Ebron at the tackle on the left, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Not losing it. Not yet.
Why? I'm not sure why I had man, I thought, man, did I dream that? But anyway, okay, yeah. And other aspects of going finer tooth, I think. Tyson Chemo von Oelhoffen Lualu. What a game, man.
Yeah, fantastic.
I had kind of my concerns about this whole move inside. More traditional nose tackle. He abused that center.
Yeah, I think he's a former tackle. It made him look like a former tackle. Nick Gase, the center. He was fantastic. The whole run defense, obviously, there was a whole effort to shut down the run, but I think it was about fit, pursuit, and finish, where the run fits were excellent, the pursuit was phenomenal, and the finish was where it needed to be. I mean, they missed very few tackles on defense.
Right. Alex Heisman, Tyler did a fantastic job on a film room that went up yesterday, and I think you would agree with that. Just absolutely fantastic film room breakdown on him. And I thought Alex Highsmith represented himself well in those few snaps.
Yeah, I thought he held the run pretty well. His pursuit was good. Even on that one pass rush, that cross chop, where it didn't really totally work off the initial cross chop, but he was just able to keep working through, get up the arc, and then get past on that pressure he had late in the game. And I think Tyler showed him that on his very first snap against Andrew Thomas. It was working on an island. The guard slid away from him, so it was literally a one-on-one with the tackle, but beat Thomas to the inside pretty cleanly. So you're seeing the hand use, you're seeing the pass rush arsenal, and those are all things I saw at Charlotte. A pretty advanced, really smart, good pass rush plan and IQ football player this team has in Alex Highsmith, who was playing on both the left and right side.
And along with that, Ola Denier, some good snaps in there as well too. I think one of the things we were worried about moving into this season was how much were they going to be able to get guys like Watt and Dupree off the field. Just judging on 1 week alone, and those numbers should start probably increasing ever so slightly, I would think and hope. And look, if you can start running, if you can jump on this Denver team, and if this game goes like I think both of us think it could possibly go on Sunday, maybe you get a chance to get guys like Watt and Dupree off the field a little bit more, along with guys like Hayward and Tuitt off the field, hopefully later in this one as well too. Just the pressures overall, and I think the other thing that stuck out, and I think you already noted this in the show after the game there, was the fact that quite a bit of pressure, blitzing numbers in this game. I would expect a lot more, or the similar level of that against a young quarterback in Drew Lock on Sunday as well. The biggest concern, I think, is maybe a big play here and there to a guy like Judy or whatnot, and you did a fantastic job of breaking down what went wrong on that big play that they gave up to Slayton the other night against the Giants there. Those kind of things, I think, are going to happen, though. Sometimes the other team makes good plays, and sometimes if your rush and coverage don't work perfectly and that quarterback's allowed to have that time on a specific coverage like that, and the route's perfect and the throw's perfect, sometimes the other team's going to win those.
Right, yeah, you got to tip your hat. That was a really nice throw, and Slayton ran 4.39 at the combine, so he's a really fast dude, and they ran a pretty shallow angle to the near post on that. But the more I look at that play, not to belabor the point, the more I put that on Hayden because he's still looking back at the football, getting depth downfield. If he just turns his head and runs to his spot, I think he's got at least a really good chance to make an impact on the catch point. So Hayden just didn't get depth enough, in my opinion.
Right, and that's Hayden. Right, technically right across the board, just because of the type of coverage, that's on Hayden.
Mm-hmm. But he's also looking back at the quarterback as he's running, and
true.
That slowed him down. I think if he just bolts to Slayton, he gets there in time.
Tough play, tough coverage, but live and learn and move on from that there. But look, overall, when you look at Denver, and we'll start getting into this a little bit more, this isn't a team that you would expect to have a lot of success hitting you down the field past 15 yards past the line of scrimmage either. So just overall, what else stuck out? Were you able to focus in on much other on the all-22 defensively? That's where I've lacked my time so far is defensive tape.
Yeah, I'm still going through it. I wanted to switch gears to talk about the offensive line again. I know we talked about it at the start, but just to go back to them, that was my biggest worry point coming off the tape of the All-22 from the Giants was just the offensive line not communicating stunts well, not passing things off, not playing at the same level, just not being really on time overall in run, but especially in pass pro.
Winooski was very slow at identifying. So I think Martinez did a good job too of kind of delaying some of those as well too, and making sure Wisniewski was committed and all like that. But and that just plays back into the fact that neither one of us think Wisniewski had all that great of a game, but definitely not on some of those games and stunts.
Are you thinking about the one where Martinez looped over to Wisniewski's right from Wisniewski's point of view? Is that the one? Is that a specific play you're referencing? Yeah, The thing with that one, I know we're getting really in the soup about this, is like Pouncey never picked up the crasher from Wisniewski. So Wisniewski can't take the looper until the crasher gets picked up. And Pouncey was waiting for Filer, so that made Wisniewski wait for Pouncey. It kind of the whole timing of it was all screwed up because this thing has to be done timed right. You can't pick up the looper on the stunt until you feel your lineman adjacent to you pick up the crasher. So again, just everything, the newness of these guys, and now you add Dotson and a core four. And I don't know if it'll be worse than what Wisniewski did at right guard, but just overall timing and being on the same level, communicating, that was the value of having the Castro and Gilbert just having the same group forever. They just worked so well in tandem. They just knew what was going on instantaneously. And so I think those are the adjustments you're making with a line that looks fairly different than past years. Anyway, back to the defense, though. Yeah, just overall, just selling out to stop the run. They were aggressive. They were attacking. They were downhill. Guys stayed on their feet. Guys didn't miss tackles. They spilled the ball when they had to. They used the sideline as help. Overall, I was happy with that. Terrell Edmonds, do you have any other feel? It's just a meh game for me for Terrell Edmonds.
Yeah, and I think I said as much. Kind of some minor issues with in that. Look, that's the guy that I'm attacking. If I can get a matchup on, say, Fant, coming into this game, he's kind of the guy that I'd much more want to try to attack opposing offenses right now. He's got to start. Some of that process, some of it I think is processing with him, right? Some of it's trying to go from the brain to he's got the athleticism. I just don't think sometimes that I think there's the delay in the see to do, if you will.
Yeah, I don't think we're breaking any news with that, but there was the one, it was 3rd and 14, I think, to hit Slayton on the right side for 18 yards. The Steelers are playing a cover 3. Edmonds is dropping down as like the hook defender, and the only route near him is Slayton, and he doesn't get enough width to make a play on the football. I think Hayden kind of pointed at him after the play, but yeah, it's a moment where you got to have a good feel for how routes develop, what route concepts are, and have that to have the ability to make a play on the football, and it's just always just a step slow in coverage in terms of getting to where he needs to be to have a chance to make a play on the football. Yeah, and so one other, I think on a curl or a comeback, it might have been a curl one too. That he, as soon as the receiver was breaking down, it took Edmonds just too long to break with him, and break back. And now as a tackler overall, the Ingram drop. Yeah, it was. Ingram dropped that one.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Ingram could. I mean, Ingram had the 24-yard catch off of Edmonds that was OPI and the drop. I mean, Ingram could have had a bigger play, and so I worry about Noah Fant with Denver because I think Noah Fant's going to make some plays that Evan Ingram failed to in Week 1.
Well, the good thing about Fant is he's got the he got the drop history as well too. So if there's one of the knocks that I saw that I thought made him a little. I thought Fant was a little bit overrated coming out. Because of the drops and because of him not being a quality, blocker overall. But rest assured that he is a guy that I want to try to get integrated into my Denver offense this week. And they're going to try a short rhythmic passing game. They'd be stupid to let Drew Lock stay back there in that pocket. And a lot, as you and the guys broke down, I think I think Josh and you did the offense, right? Right. In this post there, we're going to see them use Lock on the move.
Absolutely. Yeah, they love to roll him out frequently and get him on the move, and you're 100% going to see that Sunday.
And you're going to see some of that misdirection stuff with the tight end leaking away from the misdirection and try to just get a guy like Fant and that athleticism. A lot of those are going to produce probably some free 7-yard gains here and there,
Right. Stay on schedule. That's going to be their goal for sure. What other point was I going to make about the defense? Oh, yeah. I take back what I said about Evan Ingram as a blocker and being better than Ebron. He might be the worst blocking tight end in football. And that was one real advantage for why the Barkley had nowhere to run because you put Bud Dupree, TJ Watt, and Evan Ingram, these Giants tight ends, they could not block to save their life, and that did not help the Giants' cause.
No, and look, this isn't breaking news on him coming when Ingram came out, right? I mean, he was a wide receiver in a tight end's body, or if you will. He's not that bulky anyway. So, yeah, and I don't want to take. This is minute, but this is a little bit of why I went with Ben Roethlisberger, my player of the game, versus a guy like Bud Dupree. They made it way too easy on Bud Dupree on throughout the night. Okay, and once again, I don't want to take Bud Dupree is fantastic in this game, but why, if you're the Giants coaches, do you put Ingram in some of these situations? I mean, they were no win in my opinion. I mean, heck, Highsmith, I thought I didn't call him Hightower at any point during this podcast yet, have I?
I don't think so. We'll let fans be the judge of that.
Highsmith, I thought, did a good job on ragdolling him early.
Adaney got him for the tackle for loss in the first drive of the game.
Right. So, I mean, and not taking away from a guy like Adaney, but you get ragdolled by a backup edge, who's played 100 snaps in the NFL, I think, maybe right around in there. That says something. So I thought the Giants did a horrible job of putting Ingram in some of these situations there. And you had guys like Bud Dupree running free, into the backfield there, and heck, Vince Williams. I mean, it was just a recipe for disaster. Once again, I don't want to take away because that run defense swarmed absolutely fantastically in this game, and I would expect. Shame on them if they let Melvin Gordon and this Broncos offensive line run on them Sunday.
Don't feel bad if you said Hightower because I keep saying Benny Snell's from Florida. I caught myself saying that last podcast, and I associate that because Snell in Kentucky beat Florida for the first time in 31 years. So I'm probably going to say it again. I apologize in advance. Benny Snell's from Kentucky, Florida. I promise I'm not that dumb. But
speaking of which, with Snell, I thought, look, you go back once again to that pass protection on that touchdown. Looks even better on all 22.
Yeah, that was such a crucial pickup, and that just shows a lot of trust in his progression and growth. And if he is going to truly have the chance to be a feature back, whether that's with Connor out at some point this year or let's say next year whenever Connor's playing elsewhere, he's going to need to show that well-rounded skill set, and he is showing that right now.
What about what Eric Ebron brings to this offense right now that you saw in all 22 that you like?
Yeah, I still think they're finding some of that stuff out. Just 2 targets, I think. One was an overthrow on third down and the one catch for 18 yards. But interesting as a blocker, they're definitely working angles and leverage the best way they can right now. So I limited report really week 1 because it was just kind of quiet all around. But you can kind of see the influence of him being a threat down the scene.
They used a couple of 2 tight end sets in this game, but overall not a lot of success yet in this. And I've got my shock face on in case anybody can't see it. not shocked so far. This team, in my opinion, is going to be better 11 personnel team moving forward.
Anything else you wanted to touch on from the Giants game before we move on?
Nah, I just wish short week. I wish I would have had more time to look at, and I will obviously into the weekend here, but looking more at what happened defensively for the Steelers. I wanted to focus more on offensively what was good and what wasn't good first few times through the tape.
Right, and special teams. Unfortunately, Game Pass has special teams footage all mixed up. So, and that's for every game too. That's not even just for the Steelers game. I don't know how they're doing that, but kudos to them. But I did try to find through the notes on the punt team. Jordan Dangerfield was, of course, the up back, and the wings were Sean Davis and Benny Snell. Neither a big surprise. Claypool and Lane, the Gunners.
Let's go backwards here into some minutia we forgot to cover here with the offensive lineman down this coming week. Derwin Gray, we would think, is coming up, right, from the practice squad. Almost have to.
Right. He's going to be one of the promoted guys where that'll expand the roster, right? That's what we're expecting.
Right. A, because you need depth. B, because you want eight. Look, we're not setting ourselves up for a snafu here from Tomlin again, right?
I hope they learn their lesson.
They're not going to not promote Gray just so they can have 48. I hope that doesn't happen, Alex.
Well, just to be clear, the Steelers would have to have 8 offensive linemen dressed to have a 48-man active game day roster.
Right.
So you call up Gray for depth, and you dress him to give yourself the 8th offensive lineman because Wisniewski and Castro are likely to miss. That gives you just 7 without Gray. Gray gives you 8, and that allows you to dress another guy to give you 48 total.
Right.
So, and then Gray's a guard. He played tackle at Maryland, but my understanding he's been a guard in the NFL. That's where he was in camp last year. So I would expect him to be called up, and that doesn't have to happen until 90 minutes before game time, technically, correct?
Yeah, I think they have to report it. I think it'll be reported, but that's something I expect to happen on game day.
Okay, so some moving and shaking there. I wonder if anyone else comes up. It's probably just Gray, I'm guessing.
I would think that would be it, right? Is there any other reason to bring anybody up?
No, I guess not. I hope they don't screw up the rule and think you have to bring up 2, though, because I thought that for a moment in time that you had to bring up 2, but you can do just 1 if you want.
Right. So we'll that's one that we think. So in other words, there should be 6 inactives this week, right?
54 and 48. Yeah, gives you 6 inactives.
Right.
They should have six inactives again, but legitimate 6 inactives, not a random one that they're stealing themselves from.
We're going to be playing with this, you and I, all year. It's probably going to drive the damn listeners mad. But all right, Dobbs, Wisniewski, DeCastro, Carlos Davis.
2 left.
It's that's. Is there a reason not to? Is it possible that UG3's down again?
I think it is. I think Gentry's more likely to get the hat than UG3.
All right. So we're still lacking one though.
Right. Oh,
could it be Gentry again?
I guess it could. Because if it's not, then who's the other one? It's somebody who was active last week would have to go down, right? A Pierre or someone like that.
You would think because of what Marcus Allen is now, they must view Allen as a better special teams player in certain units than maybe UG3, I guess.
And just more versatility. You're not going to have both Allen and UG3 down.
Yeah, we can agree on that, right?
Yeah.
So in other words, there's going to be a good chance that UG3 is one of those guys. Then I guess the question is,
what about McFarland?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Are you going?
Connor's going to play.
That's a good point. So then it gets down to either probably Gentry or McFarland would be the guess, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I have a feeling McFarland will be down again if Connor's healthy. If Connor was out, McFarland would dress. But if he's healthy, then McFarland may sit again. Or
is there enough question there with Connor's health? But if he's that questionable, right?
He's practicing full. I don't know. We'll see. But I I feel like McFarland will be. I think it'll be McFarland, UG3 as the 2 inactive. Gentry gets the hat, my guess.
All right, I'm with you. You sold me.
All right. I'm glad I could sell you on that. All right, Dave.
Now just write up that post and put my name on it, all right?
Yeah, there you go. You let me worry about that, Dave. Keith Butler, Randy Fietner talked to the media was that yesterday, I believe it was, and Butler talking about Bud Dupree's progression, how he's come a long way, and that's obvious and evident for all of us to see. And Isaiah Buggs talking about how important it is for them to have strong, quality defensive line depth. I think they showed that. I think you have some good depth with Wormley and Buggs and those guys who are working their way into their lineup.
There's not a lot not to like about this defensive front right now. This defense as a whole right now.
Right.
We're talking about, really the weakest link, and we knew this going into this, was Terrell Edmonds defensively when it comes to the starters right now. What would you that's something on the all-20. Did you focus much in on Buggs and his snaps?
Yeah, Butler made a pass about him staying in his gap, so I want to go through his snaps specifically, but I did a video this morning about how the Steelers overall held Saquon Barkley to just 6 yards, and one clip later in the video is what I mentioned on either Monday's or I had been Wednesday's show, I guess it was, about Buggs being able to 2-gap and force Barkley inside, and had he not done that, Barkley may have found the end zone on like a 20-yard run. So I thought Buggs overall has shown a lot of progression. Butler talked about how they're trying to get his weight down a little bit, get him a little bit more mobile, but I think Buggs has looked good in the 80 snaps he's played in his NFL career.
And we hopefully, if things go right, we'll see another 15 to 20 of them Sunday.
Yeah, if you can rotate him in a bit. Obviously there's a baseline level like Dupree, Watt aren't playing less than 80%, basically the same for Tuitt and Hayward. But if you can rotate those guys a little bit, Buggs will get a little bit of work at nose tackle too. He did against the Giants. So if they're in base a lot, then that'll be more snaps for Isaiah Buggs.
Is Carl Dunbar the one responsible for turning Bud Dupree around?
Yeah, Dunbar works really closely with because they're basically like defensive linemen. The Steelers kind of consider him. Don't tell Dupree that though for his grievance, but
Right.
Dupree works really closely with I think Dunbar's one of the most underrated coaches because he works really, really closely with TJ Watt and Bud Dupree and the outside linebackers, and has honestly helped develop them as much as anybody.
And that's good news there too. Look, not only for Dupree and his pocket after this year, if he keeps on this pace, man, Bud Dupree's gonna have him a nice payday.
Could he make $20 million? I read about that the other day. I think he's on pace to do. If he has the season that he's on track to have, and similar to last year with the way pass rushers get paid, I think he could make $20 million.
It's not impossible, as I like to say. He's going to have some sacks in there, and he just missed. He just missed what? He probably could have had at least one, maybe two the other night, right?
He went for the ball on the one, and Jones felt it and stepped up. If he goes
I'm not going to hate him for that, though.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying he would have had the sack had he not tried to take the force. And I understand him wanting to go after the football because he's good at it, and Jones had 18 fumbles last year, but I think he kind of robbed himself as a sack to try to go for the football.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably. Look, if the cap is okay, and he's going to be one of the premier. Him and Shaq Barrett, I think, potentially going to hit the market. As some of the high market edge rushers, and edge rushers get paid. Somebody's going to pay them, and I think it is anywhere between 18 and 20.
Yeah, because you think he's at no worse than 17 or 18.
Right, I felt that going into after the tag.
Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's a stretch to say 20 if there's a bidding war between 2 or 3 teams.
Right.
And I think he could get more sacks on the team where he's not playing with such a great defensive line. And TJ Watt, like if he was like the guy as the true pass rusher that was schemed up to get as many opportunities as possible, then I think you could see a sack total rise even more. It's hard to get 15 sacks when TJ Watt's got 17 of them of his own, and Cam Hayward's going to hit double digits and all that stuff.
I don't know why the media wasted a question asking about what happened on the Darius Slayton play, because all they could have done is read Steelers Depot, and they would have known that. And really almost word for word, Butler described what you laid out in the post.
Mm-hmm. And Joe Judge, the Giants coach, basically said the same, talking about the angle of Slayton, which is the big thing, because Slayton runs that as a traditional post to the near hash or near upright, or the far upright, I should say. Hayden's probably going to make that play, but because it was a shallower angle to the near hash, the near upright, it makes it more more difficult for Hayden, more ground for him to cover. And so, that's just, you have give and take in coverages. You take away the crossing route, you give up the post. It's just the risk reward of playing defense in the NFL.
The skinniness of that skinny post really helped in that play, and that's what I thought right out from the chute on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you look back at the Jacksonville game in 2017 where they hit the same play, that was to the near hash. I mean, that's the one spot you can make that play. To the far hash, not going to work. To the near hash, you got a shot. And both Blake Bortles in 2017, Daniel Jones Monday night had excellent throws.
How jealous do you get when you watch these other coaches have these film sessions like this?
It'd be nice, but
I mean, can you imagine I don't think Keith Butler would do great at it and that's, I memean, no disrespect. I don't think he'd be great in one of these segments, like we saw Joe Judge and some of these other coaches, and Belichick's the best at it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
sure.
I make it a point every week to go over and watch his breakdowns because you learn something, You
almost hope the Patriots win just so you can see him because he doesn't do them in losses.
Right. And I think Tomlin would do a fantastic job at it if he would do something like that. But anyway, I get super jealous when I watch that. I thought Joe Judge did a great job of breaking that down the other day.
Yeah, he did. But basically just echoing what we had already written for the site. Anything else from Fichtner talking about? I don't even know what Fichtner talked about. Kevin Dotson, confidence in him, all that stuff.
Let me pull that up here. Yeah, I didn't. Benny Snell. How do you get Benny Snell Jr. going sooner in the game? Well, probably you get him going sooner in the game, right?
Yeah, not rocket. Not a secret.
I don't know what that question was all about. And just overall, not great questions. I didn't think. I don't think there's a lot to talk about. He talked about Munchak and what kind of advantage that might give, the Broncos. But I mean, look, you should be changing up your calls anyway.
Yeah, because they're going to be listening, and everyone can hear no fans in Pittsburgh this week. So you better be changing up your verbiage because Denver's going to figure it out if you don't. All right, anything else from those guys, or do you want to move on, I think, to our conversation with Ryan O'Halloran?
Yeah, we'll do that. Quick note that we really had, it was a Captain Obvious thing, Devin Bush wearing the green dot.
Right, yeah. Just wanted to put it out there. I wanted to confirm that he was wearing the green dot, and so he's officially the guy. Linebacker played all 68 snaps against the Giants and wearing the green dot, central communicator. I mean, this is his team in terms of being the central hub of communication.
All right. So let's get to our buddy Ryan.
Yeah, we'll talk to Ryan O'Halloran. He is the Broncos beat writer for the Denver Post. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan O'Halloran. Please let him know you listen to him on the podcast and appreciate his time. So we'll talk to Ryan and the Denver Broncos preview.
Okay, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Friday. That means, as promised, we will be previewing the Pittsburgh Steelers' upcoming opponent this weekend, week 2 of NFL action. And with that, it's the Denver Broncos playing the Steelers on Sunday at Heinz Field. Covering the Denver Broncos, kind of an old friend of the show who has been on before, covering the Jacksonville Jaguars. He now covers the Denver Broncos for the Denver Post. We are, of course, talking about Ryan O'Halloran. Ryan, you can follow him on Twitter at Ryan OHALLORAN. Get on there and show him that terrible podcast love that you usually do with these opposing team beat writers. And Ryan, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. Happy Friday.
Same to you guys. I think the last time I joined you was before the Jaguars-Steelers playoff game.
I think you might have been right and took it. What a game that was.
Yeah, that was probably the highlight of the organization history in Jacksonville outside of the upset win in '96. But it's good to talk Steelers football with you guys again.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you leave and switch cities after that? How long have you been in Denver now covering the Broncos?
This is my third year, so that was my last year covering the Jaguars. So as I told Doug Marone, I got you to the AFC title game. You're in charge of the
And look what they went ahead and dismantled that thing over there. They figured Ryan's leaving. We're going to have to rebuild and everything over there. That's funny. That's good stuff. Ryan, obviously, over there in Denver and all, and a few changes with that organization this past off season as well, and then now 0-1. one, entering week 2 in this game against the Steelers. Obviously, a game probably against the Tennessee Titans that, thanks to the kicker on the other side of the field, they were in most of the game there, and probably should have won if maybe some clock management had went on, better clock management went on at the end of that game there. Before we get into the matchup against the Steelers, what are kind of your overarching thoughts of where this Denver Broncos team is right now, coming out of that week 1 loss, and what did you see that you liked and didn't like in that game?
Well, I'll start with some opening thoughts. I want to give you the first one on defense. They're going to be playing 2 rookie corners on Sunday behind Bryce Callahan, Michael Ujimudie, and Aseng Bassi, because A.J. Boye, who they acquired from Jacksonville to be their number 1 corner, he got hurt, dislocated shoulder, so he's on IR. So that's going to be a good subplot, is how does Vic Fangio try to protect those corners in terms of his pressures and his coverage. On offense, it's more the same. They struggle like all get out just to get to 20 points. And, there's going to be some potholes for this offense because they are so young with no preseason and no offseason program. But, they need their big difference makers to make big plays, or else you're going to be facing 3rd and long. They're at the 3 and out. Their defense is going to be on the field for 81 plays again. And then off the Titans game, as you said, the Titans handed them the game with those missed field goals. The Broncos said, no, thanks, we don't want it.
Wow. When you look at overall, injury-wise, you already hit on A.J. Boye going to miss this game, and it sounds like there's no chance Philip Lindsay's going to make this one. Are they going to get Cortland Sutton going for this game? I know he missed that, I think, a shoulder injury in week 1 there, and I think Bowles is dealing with something, their left tackle, and that's the last thing that this team needs, is to have a tackle situation going into this game. So kind of recap the injury situation heading into this one.
Yeah, sure. Lindsey, not expected to play with a turf toe. Mark Barron, the former Steeler last year, inside linebacker, not expected to play with a hamstring. Cortland Sutton, he missed last week after getting hurt in practice. He was limited on Wednesday and Thursday, but then Vic Fangio said he's questionable for the game, which was a little surprising to me to declare that so early. And then with Bowles, he's been limited. I would expect him to go. He's been working with a brace the last couple of days in practice.
All right, when you look at Drew Lock, obviously young quarterback, second year here, I think the most surprising thing, and maybe it wasn't, I don't know, was just all that short control passing, really on both sides, offensive and defensively, when you look at that game from Monday night there. In fact, I think only one deep pass was completed in that game, and I think that was late. In fact, it might have been the last offensive play of the game. I think that Drew Lock hit one more than 15 yards down the field there. What have you seen in as far as the progression in Drew Lock these last, throughout his starts here?
Well, I would have liked to see how that progression had taken place during the offseason by playing in some preseason games, even if it's like 30 snaps or whatever. But he went into this game cold. Thought he did a nice job on some of the stuff. You're right about the short to intermediate passing game. Pat Shurmur's a West Coast disciple. That means, timing, rhythm, accuracy on those short passes. The thing Drew's got to clean up is those long balls. On passes that traveled at least 16 yards down the field, he was 0-5. And that included a big miss to Deshaun Hamilton in the fourth quarter on third down that would have sealed the game for the Broncos. So what Steeler fans are going to see is a guy who's mobile, who's not afraid to scramble for the first down, and is confident. And, even if he doesn't have Sutton, he has plenty of weapons to throw to. 10 guys had at least one catch on Monday night. So, the Broncos minus Sutton, the cupboard isn't empty, but it definitely has an impact.
Ryan, Noah Fant had a strong, I think, overall rookie year, especially for rookie tight ends. That transition is so tough for those guys to make the jump to. He had an impressive week 1, a nice catch in the end zone for Drew Lock's only touchdown. Where has his progression been, and where have you seen maybe the biggest jump from year 1 to year 2?
Well, I think the biggest jump, started about a month into last year. He had a train wreck of a game against Kansas City, multiple drops. After that, he cleaned that up. He got better technically as a run blocker, fewer penalties. So he's becoming more of an all-around tight end. But hey, let's face it, you don't draft a guy 20th overall to block. You draft him 20th overall to make big plays in the passing game. And that was his MO last year, is he was a home run hitter. And he turned a short pass into a long gain, turned an intermediate pass into a long gain, and so forth. So you saw that a little bit Monday night. All those catches came in the first half, though. So obviously a combination of the Titans adjusting defensively, the Broncos not being able to find a way to get them. And the big thing, the Broncos didn't have the ball in the second half. They had 25 plays. So if I'm in the Broncos coaches room this week and say, hey, what's the counter for Fant now after the Titans adjusted?
What is the state of Denver's offensive line? Not been a strength of theirs. Garrett Bowles has had issues at left tackle. Jawan James opts out. Now you guys have the rookie Cushenberry at center. I know that this team has Mike Munchak, who was a Steelers O-line coach, which was just beloved and really improved this unit. Have you seen progress with this offensive line, or is it still a real weak link to this offense?
I'll meet you in the middle. I think it's a work in progress because they do have some youth, and Bowles is in battle at left tackle going into his contract year. You mentioned Juwan James at right tackle, him opting out. Who knows how he would have played, but it really robbed them of some depth because Eli Wilkinson would have been a very good swing guy. Now he's a starter on right tackle. Cushenberry, rookie at center, Dalton Reisner, second-year left guard, and then they signed Graham Glasgow from Detroit. He was their big free agent signing to play right guard. The other night, I think they played relatively well. No sacks allowed, no penalties. Some goal line issues in the run game, but they feel they have the best O-line coach in the league with Mike Munchak, and so they've trusted him with with the resources they've committed to this line.
When you look at offensively and continuing on with that theme, it seemed like they used multiple tight ends in that first game there. Now, obviously, that might be because they were void of a few weapons there, obviously in Sutton and all, and try to get the rookie Jerry Judy, who, by the way, is going to probably be once he gets his footing and gets on the same path with Locke there, I think he'll be fine. And is that going to be the MO this week? I mean, we see what the Steelers did against the Giants there and really just shutting down that run game. But is Denver going to try to beat their head up against this thing and try to go heavy, in this game and establish the run? Or are they going to come out in some 11 personnel and say, all right, we'll split Fant out. We got Sutton back. We got Judy, and just try to beat the Steelers kind of down the field?
Well, they're built to have good two tight end personnel with Fant and Nick Vannett and Jake Butt. And then even you can use Andrew Beck, a fullback tight end in that spot. Judging early when they did use 12 personnel, they usually use Fant in the slot, so he wasn't an inline guy, so it wasn't really a heavy look. I see them using that again because it's all about probing the matchup. If they can get Fant against the linebacker, they'll take it. If Sutton does play, obviously more 11 personnel, but I can still see a lot of two tight end. And, KJ Hamler could be available for the first time, the Penn State product, and he'd be an option in 11 personnel as well. But they have the kind of depth at skill position, even without Sutton, that gives Pat Shurmur a lot of flexibility in how to use his personnel.
When you flip over to the defensive side of the ball, you've already hit on really kind of the main thing to look at is the cornerbacks, I think, going into this game. Obviously, with no Bouye. Their defensive line, you would probably agree, would probably be the overall strength right now of this defense. And look, what a big blow it was to lose the edge rusher, Von Miller, over there to the injury. And, Chubb's coming on, but, he's not quite there yet. And Jeremiah, I always get the last name wrong on him, on the edge rusher on the other side over there.
Atachu.
All right. Talk about that front overall, and is that indeed the strongest part of this unit?
Through one game, probably so, because of the injuries at other spots. At base, they go with Mike Purcell at nose tackle, Shelby Harrison, Jarrell Casey at the ends. You look at the box score, you see Derrick Henry had 31 carries for over 100 yards. The run defense must have been bad. Well, it actually wasn't too bad at all. I mean, he had a below 4 yards a carry. He didn't really get his wheels moving totally. He had a lot of 3-4 yard carries. What Vic Fangio did on Monday night that was different from last year is in nickel, he kept 3 defensive linemen on the field. Usually last year he just put 2. So I think he's looking for more of an interior pass rush that way. And that compensates, obviously, for the loss of Miller on the edge. You mentioned Chubb. I think last week was a victory for him, even though he didn't record any tackles or sacks. He played nearly 60 snaps, first game from his ACL. I think he'll be ready to take a step forward on Sunday.
Do they like to switch around those interior guys a little bit? I know they did a good job of rotation overall with those guys up front there and trying to rotate some of those backups in there. But with their edge guys and with their interior guys that would like Purcell and Casey, do they kind of shift those guys, rotate them to sides?
Yeah, I mean, Purcell is basically a rundown guy. So if they use 3 down linemen on 3rd down, they'll use Terrell Casey will move inside, and then they'll use Draymond Jones and DeMarcus Walker outside. So of all those linemen, the most versatile is Terrell Casey.
All right, and when you look at the second level and the linebackers there, Josie Jewell, talented young kid there, but Alexander Johnson was the one I thought that really popped on the tape in that Titans game. There seemed to be all over the field there. Is that the guy that's going to have the biggest game, perhaps for outside of obviously those young corners you talked about? Is that guy the heart and soul of that defense right now, Alexander Johnson?
Yeah, and great story. Got a chance in Week 5 last year, greatly improved their run defense. They released Ty Davis, their other starting inside linebacker, last month. And Alexander Johnson, has the radio communication, so he's being trusted to relay the call. He'll be on the field the whole game. Josie Jewell replaced Todd Davis. They looked at Mark Barron when he gets healthy as your sub-package cover linebacker, but until then, it's going to be Jewell and Johnson.
Ryan, with some of these rookie cornerbacks, that Bassey's in there, you mentioned the kid from Iowa. Is there going to be a schematic change where they may play more zone or softer coverage or more too high? Or how do you think they're going to adjust to having so much youth at cornerback?
Well, I gave that a shot with Vic Fangio yesterday and hit a wall.
Didn't go well.
And yeah, the balance for Vic is, who's not a big blitz guy at all, about 20% last year, is you send some extra pressure to test the Steelers' banged-up offensive line, so maybe force Ben to throw quicker to protect your corners. Or do you rush 4 and play a bunch of zone and make sure these young corners can say, I'm going to keep everything in front of me. I think the biggest schematic question is who covers Juju Smith-Schuster. If he's in the slot, Bryce Callahan is your best slot corner. That's what he was brought here to do. But are they comfortable leaving the rookies completely outside, which is more likely to be a man coverage? So there's a bunch of juggling of footballs in the Broncos offices this week, trying to figure out how to be aggressive on defense while also trying to make sure your 2 corners aren't exposed.
Right. My last question for you, then I'll turn it over to Dave. Just overall, what is the expectation for this Broncos 2020 team? Is there a chance that fans and do you believe this team could potentially compete for maybe that 7th seed now that the playoffs have been expanded this year, or do you think they're still a year away from serious playoff contention?
Well, the 7th seed really is created for teams like the Broncos in the stage of their building. And I thought going into the season they would probably be a 500 team but not make the playoffs, but they would at least be interesting. And this is headed down the same kind of road as last year in terms of starting 0-4, not being able to finish games, sustaining injuries. So this is a uphill battle on Sunday against the Steelers. But then if you spin it forward for Vic Fangio, he's got Tampa Bay at home on a Sunday, at the Jets on a Thursday night. Those 5 days are going to define the season.
Special teams wise, Brandon McManus probably now firmly established is probably one of the top, 6-7 kickers I think in the league right now, I would think. So not bad there. Sam Martin going to be punting again. Deontay Spencer, old friend Deontay Spencer. Several fans in Pittsburgh are still upset they let him get out of town. It looks like he's found a home there. Give us a quick overview of the special teams units as a whole. Who's their main core guy too?
Yeah, well, I mentioned McMahon is solid. Sam Martin, they signed from Detroit. He had one of the best punting games I've seen the other night in terms of being able to pin the Titans against the sideline, being a directional punter, and they covered well. You mentioned Dante Spencer. He's got to stop catching punts inside his 5-yard line. If he does that, he should have a job. But KJ Hamler is ready and able to return punts as well, and he would give them more roster flexibility. As far as their core guys, Trey Marshall is one of them. Joe Jones made the team because of his special teams, and then Devontae Harris, the corner. So those are just 3 of your core guys. But it's a special teams unit that's struggled the last couple of years, but it feels like they've got a little bit on the right track, particularly with their punter.
When you look at what the Steelers did defensively the other night against the Giants there too, and they blitzed quite a bit. Really, they surprised me with the amount of times that they went after Daniel Jones in that game. And now you got a similar situation here with another young quarterback in Drew Lock. Are you expecting them once again? Do you expect pressure City and force Drew Lock to get that ball out quick and make quick decisions in this game? Is that the way you go after him until until he proves that you shouldn't do that?
Yeah, I think so, and particularly without Sutton, it probably allows you to be more aggressive in that respect. And mostly, not so much to test Drew Lock, but just to test this offensive line. Is Garrett Bowles got up to a relatively decent start the other night. Can he keep it going? Well, let's find out. Eli Wilkinson, same deal on the right side. If I'm the Steelers, blitzing up the middle probably isn't the best course because Locke will just spin out of that. He's very good throwing on the run. But see if you can collapse those edges. That'd be one of the things I would explore early on.
Yeah, I would think, too, also they'd like to kind of do that misdirection stuff, too, I think, and get Locke out of the pocket. And they might do that early just to maybe kind of keep T.J. Watt honest on that other side. What is the one matchup that is the one that most troubles this Broncos offense, in this game? Is it Wilkinson versus Watt? And if so, what are the, I guess they're going to have to use a tight end, or a running back occasionally try to chip some on Watt, and but you can't do that every play though.
Yeah, and that would probably be the one to watch for me. Is okay? Do they use Nick Vannett as a extra tight end / 6 pass protector? Not so much to block Watt, but just to get in his way on his way out to a route, and that split second will help Wilkinson get in position. And so that would be one of those matchups. And then, Garrett Bowles in pass protection. He survived without a penalty last week. We'll see if he can do it again.
Real quick about Nick Vannett, obviously was with the Steelers last year. I didn't see it. He comes over, he's supposed to be this, better than average, blocking tight end. I just never saw it, and it wasn't shocking to me that they let him fly the coop there. And I was a little bit shocked at the kind of money, even though didn't break the bank money in Denver, but I was surprised he got what he got. What are your thoughts on Nick Vannett from what you've seen so far, Ryan?
Well, he didn't play as much as I thought he would last week. He played less than 20 snaps. He was signed mostly because they didn't expect Jake Butt to be healthy. He was coming off multiple knee injuries over the last 3-4 years, but Butt had a great camp, made the team, and him and Vannett are basically your co number 2 tight ends right now. So I think Nick's role is different than maybe what he envisioned a couple months ago. And he was looking at 12 personnel, being able to catch the football, him and Vannett running routes at the same time, creating big plays, etc. But now it looks like he's more just a role player. At least he was in week 1.
We've got a couple of questions wondering about what happened at the end of that game the other night with the clock management. What are your overall thoughts on how Fangio handled that?
It was the total system failure, and they did. You don't get to carry these timeouts into the next week. You don't get a asterisk in the box score because you had timeouts left and you were conservative like that. Is this winning drive was happening? I kept thinking to myself, why aren't there stoppages in play? I mean, why isn't he trying to drag this out a little bit? And I asked him that after the game, and reading between the words, he basically said, "We expected Gostkowski to miss another field goal." Well, if that's really what you thought, then shame on you, because a Hall of Famer like that, he was bound to be due. to make one, and he did. So, and then the next day, Vic says, "Hey, I should have called one at the 128 mark," which is accurate because there were 2 stoppages after that. But he also said, "Well, I was concentrating so much on the defensive play call that I missed the timeout." That made things worse, quite frankly, because if your assistant coach is, okay, who is your clock guy? Who's giving you advice? Who's not giving you advice? So, and then, everybody became defiant this week. Well, that's an anomaly. We're not going to change anything. But it was a red flag, let's put it that way.
Look, we've seen that out of Mike Tomlin here over the years as well too. So maybe there's a union that could be formed somehow for clock management guys. And there you go, Ryan. That's your next job right there.
Yeah, I will volunteer for that, and I'll take half of the usual coach's salary for it.
That sounds great. Hey, look, we know you're one of the most objective guys that we have on this podcast over the years that we've been doing. I have a feeling I know which way you're going to go on this, but I wanted to give you the opportunity anyway. What are your thoughts on the game Sunday between the Broncos and Steelers, and give us a final score prediction if you would not mind, sir?
Jaguars.
No, we're done with that. We're tired of losing with those guys.
So. As you can imagine, I'm thinking the Steelers. I think I went 28-17 in the paper coming up on Sunday. And it really has nothing to do with home field because there's no fans. It's all the Steelers are better right now. The Broncos, with their youth and their injuries and their lack of depth at other spots, they're not a good matchup right now. So I pick Pittsburgh to cover that 7-point spread.
All right, fair enough. We certainly do appreciate that, Ryan. Good as what we remember. Maybe Denver will somehow sneak in there. Maybe the Steelers will get back in the playoffs this year, and maybe we can do this again later on in the season. But in the meantime, we appreciate having you back on the Terrible Podcast again. We'll get the Twitter handle out there after we get you off the line again as well too. And don't be surprised if you hear from a couple of Steeler fans on Twitter later this afternoon. We appreciate your time on the Terrible Podcast again, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Hey, always a pleasure, fellas. Thanks, man.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. Again, our thanks to Ryan O'Halloran. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan O'Halloran, the Broncos beat writer for the Denver Post. Good to have him talking Denver. I know the last time was Jacksonville, and I just hope there's not a 2.0 in terms of Denver pulling off the upset the way the Jaguars did back in 2017.
Yeah, we might have to look into not having him on in the future if this one goes south. No, just all kidding aside, it's just great now over all these years to have this Rolodex full of these guys we can call up and do a great job, and we appreciate having Ryan on. Hopefully some of our listeners will reach out to him on the Twitter machine and thank him.
Yeah, please shout him out because the beat job is a busy one. It is nonstop with travel, and especially in a COVID environment, I can only imagine what it's like right now trying to deal with all that. So please shout out Ryan, let him know that you heard him and you appreciate his time because it's very valuable, and so we appreciate it as well. All right, Dave, let's do our own Denver Broncos preview of this game. Steelers are, 6-7-point favorites from that standpoint?
Yeah, consensus kind of floats. So I think between 6.5 and 7 points, and with good reason. I think when you get into the tape on this one.
Yeah, let's start with the Broncos offense, and the point that we made earlier in the show. I think we touched on with Ryan as well. To me, is they're going to get Drew Lock on the move. They're going to run a lot of boots and nakeds. They're going to change the launch point in the pocket, and you better be able to defend that because it's going to be kind of a quick, short passing game, kind of a very I don't even know what I want to describe it as, but just a very, methodical, efficient
West Coast-ish.
Yeah, there you go. West Coast, definitely for sure. That's going to get Lock on the move, and so you can be aggressive, but that aggressiveness may burn you because if you try to blitz and Lock is able to avoid that, get outside, he's going to have some receivers open. Yeah,
and I think they'll do that right out of the chute too, just to keep. Especially the TJ Watt side, to keep him honest over there. I think this is going to be a game where Devin Bush really, those second level guys, they're really going to have to be on their P's and Q's and all. A good opportunity to, on some play action to free some guys on this, but I think Locke, where he's going to be most efficient at, and he was very efficient overall from a completion percentage standpoint, was that's the thing that stuck out to me in their passing game the most. I think was getting them on the move. The other aspect I think of their passing game that we're going to see some of, that Jerry Judy's a talented kid, and we knew that coming out of Alabama. And the more comfortable he gets moving forward in this offense, the more effective he'll be. But I think they're going to, some quick hitters, if you will. I wouldn't be surprised to see them try some wide receiver screens in this one. Look, not having Phillip Lindsay's going to hurt them because there's so much stuff I think you can do with him out of the backfield as opposed to a guy like Melvin Gordon, who is a good back. But I think Fant's going to be the focus of this passing game, and I think some quick hitters to guys like Sutton, if he's able to go. Let me tell you, every time Sutton touches that football, I want him to feel it, man, because that shoulder's not going to be 100% for him. With Judy, there's some concentration issues maybe there, so I want him thinking about having to make every catch as well too. But just I think their goal, and is not surprising, to have kind of a quick, rhythmic passing game, if you will. A lot of high percentage short passes there. I don't expect the thing that I want Locke to have to do is push the football down the field. Right. I think that's where he's and I want him to try to push it toward the middle of the field too. Because I think his vision and his awareness is not there as a starting NFL quarterback. And I think if you can force a throw more than 15 yards down the field, but between the numbers, that's where you're likely to have something happen that they don't want to happen.
I'm with you. It's obvious to say the goal for every offense facing the Steelers defense is to neutralize that Steelers pass rush. And if you can run a bunch of play action and get those guys wondering if this is a run or a pass, because the good offenses, and Denver does a nice job of it, is every play action looks like a run. The scheme is exactly the same. And so there really aren't any good tells to know the difference between run or pass. And if you get that defense second guessing and wondering and slowing itself down and having to chase, lock all over the field, tire them out a little bit, that's going to be the win for Denver. So there's probably no easy way to stop that. You may try some different nickel blitzes and things like that potentially, but being aware of the play action and these rollouts, and if you can slow them down, take away, because the downside to those rollouts is you only have half the field to work with as a quarterback. So if you can take away that first option on the flat, the second option running a corner or whatever, Locke's going to be in trouble. So if you can just really be attentive to that stuff and take away that first or second read, and now Locke's on the move with only half the field to work with, that's going to put him in a tough spot. So that's a big concern, though, is they're going to get Locke in space. He's mobile, and we'll see how they defend it.
I give him a lot of the looks that he's watched on tape this past week too, although I do some opposite things out of it, whereas sending a safety or sending a corner, I give him looks where he thinks it is coming. I want to see him process it, and then not only process it pre-snap, but he's not coming. Is he going to make a wrong hot read or something like that that's going to end up costing them and putting the ball in an area that he does, 6 yards down the field that he doesn't need to, those kind of things. So I want to see just how mature he is, where he's at in differentiating versus what he saw last week versus this week, because there's not that large selection of a tape just yet, although the Steelers are who they are anyway, for the most part there. I play a lot more man. I want to see him go into some of these into these windows with his arm, and once again, I think you want to get in a situation where he's pushing it down the field. Now look, they'll try to do some stuff to get Sutton deep if he plays, and Judy. But this is a team too that I told Ryan, I think one of the things that stuck out, and not surprising with the offense that they ran, but it's something that I think for Denver to win this game, they're going to have to be 3, 4, 5 explosive plays in this game for them offensively, plain and simple. And I think the only way that they're able to do this, even though what did they have last week? Like 3 explosive plays, but I think all of them came on short passes. All right, so I think there was a missed tackle or two in some of these, but I want to force them to make their big plays down the field there, and I'm not convinced that they can do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were definitely. I mean, Locke's yards per attempt last week was 6.5. That was 23rd in football, and he's got a really high. He completed 2/3 of his passes, but had a low yards per attempt. So there was more of the dink and dunk style offense. If you take that away, stress some more downfield throws, and see what Locke can do, that may be the path to victory. And the matchup to watch for me is Jerry Judy versus Mike Hilton, because Hilton's a great nickel corner. Judy, as you said, had a terrible drop last week. There were some concentration, some hands issues, but I mean, the dude is a fantastic route runner with special footwork that can create space. So do you try to bracket that? Do you play a little more zone so that kind of neutralizes that factor? It's hard to say, but Mike Hilton versus Judy is kind of the matchup I'm really keying in on this weekend.
And they had enough. They did enough offensively, I think, overall in that game that they came out of it with an adjusted net yards per passing. And it's probably because they didn't give up any sacks, did they?
Right, no sacks.
All right, and that he didn't get sacked, and he didn't throw an interception.
Mm-hmm. They were clean. They were efficient.
And that was a big point offensively for that game, and that's what allowed them to come out of that. And because of the big plays that happened off of some of the short passes, they enter week 2 actually with a 7.2 adjusted net yards per passing attempt number. Now, small subset right now,
mm-hmm.
right? So
yeah.
He is going to need every bit of that 7.2 adjusted net yards per passing attempt number on Sunday to beat the Steelers. Realistically, if that number, if the Steelers can hold them down and get a couple of sacks in this game, maybe a turnover, that number is going to end up around 4.2. And so, in other words, I think Drew Lock is going to have to play outstanding in order for them to win this game.
What weapon in the past game scares you the most? Is it the potential return of Courtland Sutton? Is it Judy? Is it Noah Fant? I lean towards Fant just because of how much of a nightmare he can be, and he had a really strong performance against Tennessee.
Yeah, and maybe this goes back to some pre-draft bias, Alex. I'm not so worried. I mean, he's obviously Fant's going to have 3, 4, 5 receptions in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think I think whatever those receptions are going to still limit him to less than 50 yards per game. As long as you don't let this guy catch one in the end zone on you, I'm not worried about him. He's going to convert a couple of times, I think, on a couple of these catches, but I'm not overly worried about him. I think, as you pointed out, you started the question with there, I'm more concerned about maybe Sutton getting up over the top on you, or Judy down the seam on something, on a miscommunication or something, because those guys can 70-yard you, I think.
Right.
Those guys can home run you. So as long as you don't let that happen, if you keep Fant in front of you, I'm looking at Fant having like a 5 for 50, 5 for 48 game, and I'm fine by that as long as one of those isn't in the end zone against you, personally.
Yeah. But he caught one last week.
I'm just not. Fant's going to have to prove a little bit more to me, I think.
All right, that's fair. Yeah, I think they got some weapons for sure. I mean, Sutton, if he plays, obviously, Jerry Judy is very impressive. I mean, there are enough weapons to spread the love around. So it's not just one guy going for 150 yards and 10 catches on you. It can be just a culmination of all those guys stepping up. So we'll see for sure.
Can I rewind that real quick and back this up? Hamler is a guy that's going to be interesting to see hit the field this week for them, and that is
he definitely playing?
I don't know if he definitely is or not. All I know is that there's a chance of that happening, and if he does, I mean, he's very
fast. He's very fast.
Yeah, very. I forget the kid in KC. Why am I?
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, very Tyreek Hill-ish. If you will. He is a guy that can big play you in a hurry, and I think if he does play, you've got to try to design a few things. I think you got to be very cognizant of when he is on the field. It's the old Dree Archer thing. Although I mean, it's easier to kind of get to do with these guys that aren't running backs, or that are wide receivers more so than they are running backs. Hamler is a guy, though, I think if you get him on the field, that you have to be very cognizant of, because I think they're going to try to get the football in his hands, and he can Him along with Sutton are guys that I think really you got to be worried about home run you. 40 to 50 yards there.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, Hamler may only play, I'm just guessing, 10, 15 snaps, but they'll probably throw at least one deep ball to him. I mean, the dude can run like in the 4.2s. So, yeah, I mean, that's a guy to worry about because that's just rare speed that most defenses can't really contend with. All right, about the offensive line for the Broncos. I mean, that's a weaker group. I think this pass rush, again, I think they'll have to deal with some of the play action misdirection. The Broncos like to pull guards off of play action and really just give you a lot of false keys. But just straight up, I mean, the Steelers pass rush and defensive line in their front has the overwhelming advantage against the Broncos front five.
Yes, without a doubt. There, you just look at Mike Munchak's going to have to be a minor miracle worker, I think, this week. Bowles coming off of whatever he's dealing with there. I think a lot of people surprised that he played maybe as well as he played this past week. I don't think people are expecting that week in, week out with him. Bud Dupree ought to give him everything he wants and more. I don't know what you think about Dalton Reisner or Graham Glasgow, the two guards. Cushenberry, obviously a rookie. Going to be interesting to see a guy in Alualu go up against him. And also, look, he's going to get a handful of Cameron Hayward in this game as well, too. I just think matchup per matchup across the board here with the Steelers' defensive front, it's just a mismatch city.
Mm-hmm. Just get Locke on the ground because they had trouble tackling Daniel Jones last week. Locke has a similar level of mobility, maybe a little bit less, but make sure you get those guys on the ground.
This could get ugly in a heartbeat for Wilkinson. I mean,
against Watt. Yeah.
Against Watt. I mean, it really. I mean, Watt might end up going home wearing Wilkinson as a hat.
He better come away with his first sack of the season. I don't want him to go 2 weeks into the year without a sack.
Look, if Watt's not on the, I think you go back and look. Bud Dupree 9 pressures, total pressures. Watt 8, and both of them could have very easily had sacks in that game. I think too. And if get into the same situation as it was last week there, if the Steelers offense doesn't start as slow as they did this past week, if they get out to a lead, this could get ugly in a heartbeat. I think for the both Bowles and Wilkinson there, and I really expect Watt to have a strong game. I think we're going to be talking about him a lot come Monday.
I do as well. Let's flip over to the Broncos defense, and let's start with that defensive line because I think, as we mentioned in our interview with Ryan, that's kind of where the strength of this unit is at, especially with the injuries they're dealing with the secondary. So the Broncos know they have to at least stop the run, give themselves a chance in some third and long situations, and they got talent up front. Shelby Harris, Steeler fans know Shelby Harris pretty well. He's the man that picked off that pass in front of AB that started that whole saga and was kind of the beginning of the end in terms of the AB's time in Pittsburgh. And they got Casey, who they stole from Tennessee for a 7th-round pick this offseason. Purcell. It's a good defensive line, Dave.
It is, and that to me, looking I didn't get to spend a lot of time on their tape, but I obviously looked at some of it and looked at schematics and looked at personnel when it comes to them. Their defensive line is their best group. All right, overall, especially now that Boye in the back end. Look, I like what they do Justin Simmons, I think, is a very underrated safety on this team there. But just top to bottom, unit by unit, I think the defensive line is their bread and butter there. And with the Steelers' issues on the offensive line, it could present a challenge trying to run the football successfully in this game here. I would expect to. The success I think the Steelers can have is some of the stuff that it gets me excited. It's the power stuff. It's getting people on the move overall there. I think if you just try to stand up and inside zone these guys, I don't think that's the right recipe here. But I will be interested to watch what Dotson does on some of these traditional bubble runs, inside zone runs to see how effectively he's able to move people. And I think you're going to want to try to run interior and see what you can get behind your guards here. But overall, I'm not expecting a lot of success. Hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think there can be some success, but the Broncos just play really good team run defense. They're a fast, physical bunch. They flow well against zone schemes. Their assignment sound. The defensive line isn't as potent in terms of the top tier talent that I saw the Giants have with guys like Lawrence and Tomlinson and Leonard Williams, but they just play really good collective team defense. Andrew Johnson, 12 tackles last week. Josie Jewels played good linebacker for them for quite some time. So I think you can run on these guys, but yeah, you got to be on your P's and Q's for sure because the Broncos just play a really fundamental, just across the board, good sound run defense.
I think the key to this thing is Alexander Johnson for them. And obviously Casey. I think those two guys control the keys to this thing for them. Against the run specifically. Johnson really surprised me. He was all over the place, I thought. And I thought Ryan did a great job of pointing out people will look at the century number with Henry, but for a big back and his history, recent history and all, I thought they did a great job of controlling him overall.
3.8 yards per carry the Titans had. That's not a good number for them.
And I didn't look at the run success rate, but I wouldn't imagine it was great for Henry over there. So, look, I think I think they have a better chance than most of controlling the Steelers' run overall. But once again, if the Steelers have success on this against this run front, I think this is a second level defense that can be handled if you get them on the move, trying to flow to handle some of these powers. So I want to see the Steelers come out of the chute ambidextrous power, man. I want to see Matt Filer on the move. I want to have to take a cold shower by halftime because I think that's where they can gash this Broncos front is running the power.
Whenever you never wanted them to run power, like you are power all the way. And I agree. And I think, honestly, Dotson, as much as I may have some angst about that, is going to be a better run blocker than Wisniewski. Wisniewski got no movement. He was overmatched, overpowered against that big Giants front last week. Dotson's not going to have that exact same concern. He's a lot bigger, stronger, more physical, in my opinion. And so I think, actually, from that standpoint, they'll have more success. Now, core for it, right tackle with Banner, maybe a bit of a downgrade there in terms of run blocking. But I think Dotson for Wisniewski will actually give you an upgrade in the run game.
What do you feel about pass protection in this game?
It's interesting. Bradley Chubb, they said about pitch count, and maybe he didn't play his usual complement of snaps, but he was playing, 73% of the time last week. So he played a pretty healthy majority of the snaps, and they got Atacho on the right side or the other side that played pretty well. And it's kind of a Dupree Watt, not to the same exact talent, but Chubb's a big guy. Similar to Dupree, Atachi's a pretty big guy, similar to T.J. Watt. That could be 4-3 ends if you had a different system. So it's not a great pass rushing group, but they got some big guys that will hold the edge against the run, and that makes running the football that much more difficult. What
one matchup scares you the most pass protection-wise for the Steelers going into this game?
Jarrell Casey probably on Kevin Dotson, because I assume they're going to move Casey around, and they're going to be aware that they got a rookie guard who got 6 career snaps under his belt working for Pittsburgh, and so they're probably going to try to exploit that as much as possible.
All right, so you're not so worried about what are you expecting out of a core four in this game?
It's different. Last time he started a game against Denver, there was Von Miller, and they gave him all the help possible. And neither of those things will probably be as much in play. Obviously, Miller's out entirely, and they probably won't help a core four as much as they did in his first career start. But I guess for me, it's more about the overall communication with the offensive line, passing off stunts, recognizing blitzes, being on the same level, all those detail things. It's less about one particular matchup as the unit playing together, because if one guy fails in pass protection, they all fail. Like that's just how it works. You can't get away with one guy not doing his job and expect success as an offensive line. So just making sure everyone's on the same page, I think is going to be the biggest collective concern for this whole line and pass pro.
All right, as far as that Broncos secondary goes, man, as Ryan pointed out, a lot of young, a lot of youth in here, outside of Kareem Jackson, who's been around for a little bit here. Justin Simmons, obviously one of the better free safeties, I think, in the league. Man, Kareem Jackson's 32 years old. They're going to have a lot of, if you look back at the Tennessee game, you see a lot of rotation in there, I think.
Mm-hmm. They're going to drop Simmons down. He's going to play a lot of robber coverage, try to take over the middle of the field, especially with Basie at corner. Juju's got to be licking his chops right now, but they're probably going to drop Simmons down. I mean, this is a similar matchup to Darnay Holmes against the Giants last week, a rookie slot corner, and Basie's in a similar boat. So I expect them to try to help Basie out as much as possible by rotating Simmons down to try to jump and rob some of those crossing routes.
Who has the best matchup overall in this thing?
I think Juju, if he gets singled up on Basie, is probably an advantage matchup. The Iowa kid is he going to be taking Deontay? I'm not quite sure where they're lining some of these guys up with off of Boye's injury, but overall it's a pretty youthful cornerback room, and we'll see how that may limit them schematically. And Ben going against some of these rookie cornerbacks should be advantage Pittsburgh. Yeah,
you got to be careful how much they send some of these guys after Ben, because if Ben knows it's coming, they're liable to get picked apart. And I think there's going to be an opportunity or two in this game to get Deontay one-on-one on somebody and take a shot deep.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to blitz a whole lot. That's not really does not feel like Denver's MO from what I saw against Tennessee and overall. But and probably with some of the youth they have in the secondary, they want to rush 4, drop 7, and try to protect themselves in the back end as much as possible.
Is this a game that matches up well maybe for Ebron?
Yeah, I think he could. The Broncos gave up 2 touchdowns to tight ends last week. Now, both of them came at the 1-yard line. Both of them came off of play action. So maybe one of those things where they're not having big, run after catch type plays. But I think Ebron or McDonald will catch a touchdown down in the low red zone this week.
I like it.
Last thing for me that I'm very concerned about, Dave, and if you remember back to that Broncos game, was at 2018. I know we all think about the end of that game and the Harris interception, but they blocked the field goal that game. Justin Simmons leaping over the line of scrimmage. Justin Simmons is still there. The Broncos blocked the field goal last week. That was Shelby Harris getting one. Gostowski missed 3 kicks. And Denver is still doing, and this is how they got Simmons free in 2018, this tactic that I think is, I don't know if it's illegal, borderline, but where they will hold down one of the linemen to allow another adjacent Broncos player to leap over him, the way that Simmons did in 2018 to block that field goal, which caused an issue with Danny Smith. So be very aware of that. They're still doing this tactic of basically just holding down one of the tackles. So it's going to be either Cam Hayward or Villanueva to allow another player to jump over that guy and try to make his way to Chris Boswell. So I'm worried about that aspect of special teams.
And that reminds me to mention that we located the extra point doink and everything. All the mechanics and all looked right with that, other than just Boswell pushed it out there.
Yeah, I don't know kicker mechanics too well, but the snap and hold looked good to me.
Right. So hopefully you're not foreseeing something happen on a. Boy, it's gonna be. You hate to see some sort of a block something and another field goal end up going the other way or something like that and keeping them in this game.
Right. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to hold down Villanueva because he's just too dang tall, but they may do it to Hayward. They may do it to some interior matchup the way they did it before. Remember, the Steelers are going to have some new faces on that unit. They had Wisniewski. They had Zach Banner on that unit as interior guys. They were both guards working next to Canada last week, so they won't be available this week. So some new faces out there. I just hope they're prepared. Special teams were sloppy last week, and I would not be shocked if the Broncos get another field goal block again.
All
right, Dave. Where do you want to go from here? I guess that is our preview and recap of the Broncos Week 2 matchup. Let's hear about our friends from MyBookie, and then we'll go ahead and make our Week 2 picks here momentarily.
All right, that's right, Alex. Winning season returns at MyBookie. Winning season means doubling your first deposit. Winning season means survivors, super contests, and squares. At MyBookie, winning season means hitting all your parlays and props with your feet up, watching your team trounce their rivals. Rejoice, it's time to celebrate the NFL season again. Invest in your intuition today. Use promo code TERRIBLE. That's promo code TERRIBLE and double your first deposit. New players get up to $1,000 in free play designed to add more excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. From live betting to championship futures, every play you want to make is waiting for you at mybookie.ag. It's simple. Make your picks, win big, collect your cash. Use promo code TERRIBLE and double your first deposit today. Your winning season begins today only at mybookie.ag. And what did you think about the game last night?
Two quarterbacks have played really well. I mean, Burrow is looking sharp, but they're going to get him killed if they can't get that offensive line better.
People say that both those Did you view it as both teams stinking?
No, I think you saw a lot of talent on offense. The Bengals' run defense is terrible, and that was my concern that the Browns wouldn't cover that one. Although the Bengals wouldn't cover that one. So thank you, Joe Burrow, for the backdoor cover on that. But
you're getting language down now. I'm worried about you.
Slowly but surely, I'm going to be at the casino later tonight. But no, I just thought overall you just saw some really good weapons. I feel bad though for AJ Green. I mean, that guy just looks like a shell of himself.
Yeah, it looks like you worry about him getting hurt every play.
Yeah, he takes 5 minutes to get up after every hit.
That's like me.
Yeah.
That's like me.
You getting out of bed.
Trying to get out of the chair, Absolutely. I thought both quarterbacks played well. I think Burrow, that one throw Burrow made to Higgins after the play kind of broke down, I thought that was a fantastic. I think Burrow might be for real, man. Once again, like you said, the offensive line and all, I think that's going to be a concern for them. Both defenses weren't great, but how many defenses are? I mean, there's going to be a lot of middling defenses around the league this year, especially early, I think, rather than later in the season as well, too. So now here we are, the Bengals 0-2, the Browns 1-1, and you got the win. You had the Bengals plus the points. I thought that late touchdown was going to save me, but it didn't. But you got the backdoor cover there. All right, let's get into the games here and fly through these things real quick. The Philadelphia Eagles at home, according to mybookie.ag, laying 1. Eagles laying 1 at home against the Rams.
Ooh. Philadelphia, they got 17-0 lead against Washington. They blow it. I think they bounce back. But give me the Eagles.
No, sir. Give me the Rams. Win outright, plus the 1. Carolina Panthers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers coming off that, I don't know what you'd call it against the Saints there. Buccaneers at home, laying 8.5.
Big line. I'll call it growing pains for Tampa Bay, but I think they bounce back in a big way after collecting themselves after week 1. So I'll say Tampa Bay wins by 10 points.
I'm with you. I think Tampa Bay blows them out here. I'll lay that 8.5 with Tampa at home. There's going to be a lot of murmuring if Tampa Bay stays in a close one this week. Let's see. Atlanta Falcons at the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys laying 4.5 at home against the Falcons. Falcons could start 0-2. Ooh.
Well, someone's starting 0-2, I guess, in this one.
Yeah.
I was surprised Dallas lost last week, but I know that line's beat up, but that Falcons pass rush still is not great. So give me Dallas. I'm a little less confident this week than I was last week in the Cowboys.
Boy, Vander Esch.
Right.
And
I think Tyrone Smith might be hurt at left tackle.
Yeah, and obviously, who's the other inside linebacker?
Sean Lee.
Yeah,
Sean
Lee.
He's always hurt.
Yeah, welcome to football. Sean Lee missing time with an injury there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I think the Falcons win this. I think they upset them.
Okay.
Give me the Falcons plus the 4.5 on the road against Dallas. San Francisco on the road against the New York Jets here. San Francisco road favorites by 7.
And rightfully so. Is there any team that looks worse than the Jets right now? Give me the 49ers to win big.
Give me the 49ers, but not to cover. Give me the Jets at home to at least cover. They'll lose, but they'll cover. Buffalo Bills on the road against the Miami Dolphins. Buffalo 6-point road favorites.
Miami tried to play New England tough last week, but this Bills team saw a lot of weapons. They got Zach Moss's first touchdown. Josh Allen looked good overall. Give me the Bills.
Give me the Bills to cover. I'm with you on the road. Minnesota Vikings on the road against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts at home. Favored by 3. Vikings start off 0-2, Alex?
Nope, don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to go with the Vikings on this one. Phillip Rivers, just don't know if it's going to be good enough this year for the Colts.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one as well, too. I think Zimmer will get that defensive unit back going again. To me, I smell a rat here for some reason, but sometimes I overthink these things. Give me the Vikings plus 3. Give me the Vikings to win outright, too, on
Same.
this. Detroit Lions on the road against the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay at home favored by 6.5, Alex.
I'm going to say the Lions cover. I think it's close enough, NFC North type battle, but I do think Green Bay wins this one.
All right, I think Green Bay wins this and covers. Boy, Aaron Rodgers looked he's still got that laser, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm, he does.
Give me the Packers at home to and cover that 6.5 here. New York Giants smarting off their loss to the Steelers play the Bears on the road. The Bears favored by 5.5 at home.
Wow, what do I want to go with?
I don't know what to think on this one.
I'm going to go with the Giants. I was impressed with Daniel Jones. I knew Trubisky had that monster comeback, but that team looked dead in the water until that point. Giants will get back Golden Tate. So I'm going to say the Bears are 5-point favorites.
5.5 Bears laying at home.
I'm going to say the Giants win outright. It's my bold prediction, bold upset of the week. If I guess, it's an upset.
I'm with you. I think Daniel Jones did some things that give you some encouragement over there. So that, and I think Saquon Barkley, 150 at least total yards from scrimmage in this game. So give me the Giants plus the 5.5. I also like the Giants to win this one outright. Jacksonville Jaguars on the road against the Tennessee Titans. Titans only favored by 7.5 in this.
Yeah, Jacksonville, I mean, they were one of the big upsets of week 1. I think Tennessee wins, but I think Jacksonville plays them tough again and at least covers.
No, I'm not with you on that one. I'll take the Titans to easily 10-point, 11-point win on this one. I like the Titans cover that 7.5 at home. The Washington football team on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals favored by 7.
Yeah, give me Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins welcomed Arizona. Career high game last week. I think Cardinals win big.
I like Washington to lose this, but to keep it close enough, 6-point game or something like that. So give me the Washington football team plus 7 points on the road against the Cardinals. The Baltimore Ravens on the road against the Houston Texans. Boy, if the Houston Texans drop to 0-2, I don't know, that division, I guess anything can happen in that division, but hard to imagine the Texans winning this one, right? Texans plus 7.5 at home.
Yeah, give me Baltimore. I think I saw a stat that Houston is like 31st in defending rushing quarterbacks since last season, and now they get to see the reigning MVP Lamar Jackson. I think Baltimore wins big.
I think Baltimore wins big on the road as well, too. Lay that 7.5. Kansas City Chiefs on the road against the Chargers. Boy, some road favorites, man. Chiefs -9 against the Chargers.
That is quite a line. I want the Chargers to cover. I just don't think they have enough with Tyrod Taylor. It's a big line, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs on this one. Play it safe.
I am too. I don't see how they don't cover this, really. Give me the Chiefs -9. New England Patriots on the road. Underdog Patriots to the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks -4.
Two very different offenses. Seattle's opening up their offense. New England's kind of going more of an old school mentality. You pick this one. I'm gonna punt on this one for the moment.
Give me the Patriots outright. I want that 4 points. Give me that money line, too, on the Patriots. I think the Patriots win on the road, beat Seattle.
All right, I'll be different. I'll go Seattle on this one.
You lay the 4 points, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right, the New Orleans Saints on the road against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Saints sounds like they're going to be without Michael Thomas for a little while here. Saints still favored by 6 on the road.
I'm going to go with the Raiders in this one. I like Josh Jacobs, 3 touchdowns last week. Henry Ruggs, that passing offense is opening up. And yeah, without Michael Thomas, they have Manny Sanders, but man, without Thomas would be a big loss. So I'm going with the Raiders in this one.
Yeah, and that's the Monday night game, right?
Is it? I can't keep track anymore.
Yeah, the Sunday night games, I think the Patriots and the Seahawks, and the Monday night games, the Saints and the Raiders. I think the Saints win this, but I think the Raiders cover at home. So give me the +6 there. All right, that brings us full circle back to the Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the Denver Broncos. The Steelers are now 7.5-point home favorites against the Broncos.
I'm going to go with the Steelers in this one to beat Denver 30-17. I think that young cornerback group in Denver is going to hurt them, although I do like the Broncos safety play, and this defense I just think is going to be swarming. And while I think there are some similar concerns that Drew Lock has, that Daniel Jones gives you in terms of mobility, moving the pocket, extending the play, etc., I just think the Steelers team top to bottom is just too tough, too strong, and as long as that offensive line plays at least a little better than last week, they should handle the Broncos pass rush well enough. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh 30-17.
30. Let me write this down here. 30-17. Look, the only way I see, once again, goes back to last week. As long as Deontay doesn't fumble on a punt, or you give up any short fields here. There's we've said it a lot of times over the years. It's unimaginable somehow these Steelers teams losing some of these games. it's really hard to imagine the Steelers losing this game. Now the question is how big can they win it by? This defense is for real. We knew it going into this. I'm not so much concerned about the Steelers offensively. I think the defense might even give the Steelers offense a short field or two in this game, which will help. I don't think they'll hit that 30 mark though, and I think the Steelers defense will hold the Broncos to under that magical 16, 17 points that Keith Butler keeps talking about. I have the Steelers winning this quite handily. I think once again the Broncos. I was almost right on the money with that score last week. Didn't I say like 27-17 or something with a late garbage kind of touchdown by the Giants? I've got a garbage touchdown again by the Broncos in this one to make it somewhat, I guess, kind of respectable. I have it 27-13 Steelers.
Okay, fair enough. If the Steelers were to lose this game, what would be the thing that would cause them to lose it? If you had to guess,
turnovers, obviously, and a couple of explosive, like 5 explosive plays by the Broncos offense of 20 yards or more. With one of those maybe even 2 home runs or something where you scratch your head and say, man, how did they let X go 70 yards on that play? Something like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
Okay, shall we get to some emails and close this bad boy out here?
Yeah, did you want to touch on the helmet controversy that's been brewing in Pittsburgh for the last several days?
Yeah, I suppose we deserve to give that some lip service for sure.
Yeah, because it has become such a big story with Alejandro Villanueva not wearing Antoine Rose's name on the back of his helmet. Marquise Pouncey had a statement yesterday saying I believe saying that he won't be wearing his name on the back of his helmet going forward. It's been a big story in the media. I think it's less so in that locker room. Not to say it's not an issue or discussion point at all, but these things get into the politics of it all, and I don't know. It's just people have their opinions. I don't think they're changing their opinions, and so I try to just to stay off the topic.
Well, Here's the thing that I don't think we know the full what's going on behind closed doors there. It doesn't sound like there was any sort of a vote from the players' end of it that Rose would be the one that they would universally accept to honor on the back of their helmets. Is that the way you're kind of taking this?
Yeah, Vince Williams had an IG video the other day that talked about that he didn't even know really what was going on. Basically players weren't really sure what the team was deciding to do. So there's been some miscommunication, or at least hard to parse the information there, which has made a complicated situation even more complicated.
What do you think about Villanueva covering up to honor the guy that he wanted to honor, Alwyn Cash?
Mm-hmm. I mean, generally for me, and again, listen, if people have their opinions, I'm not trying to change anyone's mind here. That's pretty futile. I'm fine with basically honoring whoever you want to honor. I think that's the whole point of freedom, is to be able to do whatever you want to do and to honor someone appropriate to honor, and that's what Villanueva was doing. So I don't have a big problem with it, to be honest with you. And for me, to be perfectly honest, like, I get these gestures, they're nice, they're good stands. I'm not mad at the NFL. These players are wanting to do that and make their voice heard, but I care a lot more about the tangible actions, the things that actually make an impact in the community. These are things that Vince Williams was talking about, how I think next week he's sending like 500 laptops and PPE equipment and all this stuff to the local Pittsburgh community. And that's the stuff that I think really has the impact, more so than some of the stuff that again, can be important and it's good to have, visualized, but doesn't mean anything unless you put that stuff into action.
The most concerning thing from me, from what I think I know about this so far, and once again, I don't think we know everything that went into this decision or not or non they talked about unity ahead of time, right, and being one and all like that. All right, and they did a huge job of playing that up before this, but now you come out of this and it looks like that they were everything but that,
Right.
And to hear Minka Fitzpatrick seemed very uncomfortable being put on the spot about this in his Zoom call yesterday, but in so many words said the decision was made from up top about whose name they were going to put on there. I have no issue with whoever they want to put on the helmet. All right,
sure,
whatsoever with that for but at first I think we were led to believe that the team voted unanimously that Rose was going to be the guy they were going to put on the helmet. At least that's the way I took it. Is that the way you took it?
Yeah, it seemed like there was at least player input involved in choosing the name on the back of the helmet. That was my interpretation of it initially, but that does not appear to be the case.
And if that was indeed the case, that the team chose to do that as a team, then Villanueva would probably have been in the wrong, correct?
I mean,
it's dicey. I mean,
I don't want to say he's in the wrong, because he should be able to honor whoever he would like to honor. I mean, I understand the unity aspect of it, but
it definitely would look bad, having tape over it. Then if he was choosing to do that on his own, then it should have been in the same font and engraved, just like Rose was. And I'm not saying he was in the wrong. And obviously, it does not look like the team was unified. It does indeed seem like somebody made the decision other than the team as a whole. And then look, I mean, why Mike Tomlin said that Villanueva came to him and told him that he was going to honor somebody else. Okay, that I guess lets Villanueva off the hook then. All right.
Right. But he was given permission. Right.
Right. Then why wasn't the rest of the team told? Because Roethlisberger, Cam Hayward said they didn't know. They didn't know. It just seemed like a lot of didn't knows. I
mean, I'm guessing Villanueva did this at the last second because it was kind of hurriedly done, and so maybe there just really wasn't an opportunity or a time to have that discussion.
Right, and I think my main takeaway right now on this whole thing, based on what I think I know, which I obviously don't know everything, is it looks bad on the Steelers. A team that's claiming to saying that they're going to have unity in this and be one. And they look like they were anything else but one with this. Right. And now you're having Marquise Pouncey say, I'm gonna put whoever I want to honor on my helmet. And so what's it gonna it's gonna be interesting to see what this thing looks like this week now.
Yeah, I would probably scrap the idea, either just get rid of the whole name on the helmet thing altogether, or just allow players to honor whoever they want to, whether that's Breonna Taylor or Antoine Rose or somebody else. I think players should have that ability and have that freedom to honor whoever they want to honor. And to me, that would be the most sensible thing.
And I think that's what they should have done. And I don't know who made the decision up the chain or whatnot, to make Rose the one that they honored there. But why does it seem like the NBA does this kind of stuff a lot better than the NFL, man? I mean, I think whatever criticism the Steelers are getting right now from major media is deserved, personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just tough because we're just working with incomplete information. Right. I'm trying to make a judgment off of that information that I fully am aware that I don't have all of it, and I don't know if all the players do either, and that makes it even more complicated. But yeah, I would let players honor whoever they want to honor. That's a personal decision, and that's fine by me. Rather than trying to, I don't want to say force this unity, but I guess in a sense kind of force this unity under one name. Although I do support anyone wearing Antoine Rose too, just to be clear about that.
Right, and I don't have an issue with them, whoever they want to honor. It's just I think the minutia of it and all, and the process was very, very flawed here in this, and it really. And it's no wonder that there's so much talk about it. And obviously, we don't like to have to talk about this kind of stuff week in and week out. But a lot of people say, well, why aren't you guys talking about this? Well, there we go. I hope we've covered it substantially and thoroughly.
Yeah, and I don't think it's nearly as big of an issue in that locker room as it's being portrayed on the outside. And Vince Williams said as much. He said this is not a Chicago situation 2.0, where that was a legitimate distraction in that locker room in that 2017 game against the Bears. And that's not the case this time.
All right. Hi, Dave and Alex. Thanks for all your great, this is from Chris Bailey, for all the great work on the podcast aside. If people out there haven't paid for the ad-free version, like Dave says, you're doing it wrong. My question is short and simple. Who was wearing the green dot on Monday night, and how effective was the defensive communication?
That was Devin Bush, and communication from my standpoint looked pretty good.
I would agree, and we would expect, I think Keith Butler said Devin's going to play a lot of snaps moving forward. Let's see. Matt writes in, Dave and Alex, I see other live stream podcasters starting their live streams on YouTube 12 hours in advance of the actual show starting. It's like coming soon advertisement. People can even use the chat feature while waiting. If you can use this feature of YouTube, I think you'll get a large crowd for the live show.
Yeah, I can schedule them a little bit earlier, although usually we don't have a lot of people waiting until like 10 minutes before the show. But I can schedule them a little bit earlier in advance on Mondays at 7 p.m.
All right. Colin Childress writes in. Colin, good day, Dave and Alex. Been listening for about 4 years now. Really enjoy all content. You are the best and most informative podcast around, in my opinion. Thanks for that, Colin. Thanks for all the information and content you provided. What do you think some of the key matchups versus the Broncos are?
I think we touched on them earlier. Mike Hilton on Jerry Judy. Steelers field goal protect team, I think, is an underrated one to look at. The Steelers pass rush overall, defending Drew Lock outside the pocket, and how aggressive they're going to be offensively for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just that O-line, just being able to communicate against any of the blitz or stunt looks that Denver's going to bring. Yeah,
I think we handled a lot of what Alex just said. I think we covered a lot of those earlier in the show there. Bryce writes in us. Assuming they both start on Sunday, who do you think has a better game on Sunday and why? Dotson or Chooks? I think Dotson has the ability to have the better game because he's got 50-something snaps in college and at that position. I just think Dotson is suited to have the better game than Chooks.
I'll hedge a bit and say Dotson better as a run blocker, a core for better in pass pro.
All right. What in the world was Vic Fangio thinking with that clock management at the end of week one? Please explain to me what he could have possibly been thinking. Yeah, I think Ryan did a great job at that. I don't want to get too deep into the minutia. I was more concerned with the tape than I was the clock management when going through that game the first time.
Same.
Colin Cutright. Hey guys, love everything you provide, Steelers Nation. Assuming Kevin Dotson is the starting right guard for the next couple of weeks, awaiting the return of Castro with Wisniewski injured. If Dotson goes out there and performs well, what are the chances we see Dotson take over the left guard position and bump Filer to right tackle when Castro is back and healthy? With Okorafor being in his third season as top 100 pick in his draft class and not initially winning the right tackle position out of camp, my faith in him isn't very high. I know this will also depend on how Okorafor performs, but what's your take on this? Again, thanks for everything you guys do. I've learned so much about the NFL works from you guys. Thank you, Colin in Bridgeport, West Virginia. Let's watch how Okorafor and Castro and Dotson play in this game. Remember, right now Dotson is a right guard only, so that's part of the thing. To get into switching multiple guys and moving Filer back over to right tackle, I think it would really take Okorafor playing poorly and Dotson really, really playing well to for something like that to happen.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely. Obviously, we want to see how Okorafor performs. If he really struggles, then maybe that becomes an option. But Dotson, you're just getting him comfortable at right guard, then you're flipping him to left guard. That changes, your hand placement, your footwork.
There's your angst.
Yeah, that'll be some angst. I have no problem with Filer taking back out. I think he could do it tomorrow if he had to, because he's just wired that way. He just does a good job moving around. But Dotson to flip him and to change everything, and that's where the issue's at. So maybe, but Okorafor would really have to struggle for that to happen.
I would agree. Let's see what happens this week. Jesse Hernandez. Hey guys, thanks for all the content. Question: with Connor going down this week, I play in a PPR fantasy league where catches are more valuable. I was reading Dulac's chat today and mentioned Snell was at average at best with his hands and sees him as a one or two down back. What are your thoughts? Did Benny Snell make a heck of a damn catch? When was it?
Against the Bengals last season?
Yeah, what didn't
bailed Rudolph out.
Right. So
Snell has good hands. They've just been underutilized at Kentucky and in Pittsburgh. I mean, he's not, Jalen Samuels, and he may get removed in some of those situations. For me, from a fantasy standpoint, because that situation is so murky, I probably would stay away from Pittsburgh running backs this week. Maybe Connor in a flex spot, but it's a little dicey right now.
Yeah, not knowing what way that could go and if Connor can stay on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, look, Snell's not known for pass catching coming out of college, but was Connor really known for that either?
Not really. He really didn't develop that until his second year in Pittsburgh when he became really a different guy and caught 55 passes in 2018. So, yeah, I just from a fantasy standpoint, I'd be hesitant to play a Steelers running back. If you have a different option, then I would look elsewhere.
All right, I think that's enough for today. I think we got filled this up with about 2 hours worth of info today for everybody. So why don't we make that a stopping point, Alex?
All right, sounds good. We will return on Monday, hopefully recapping a Steelers win, but we'll recap whatever the result is and go from there.
All right, in the meantime, follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast, and you can email the show. Hope you're doing that. The Terrible Pod. Let's hear from some new people out there. We hear from some new people here and there. We want to constantly hear from new people. Make sure you tell us where you're emailing us from, too. We always like to see that. But the Terrible Podcast at gmail.com. Let's see, what else do we have? If you'd like what we do, you want to donate, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, up right navigational bar. Also, if you want an ad-free version of the site, as everybody writes in, tell us they love it. You're doing it wrong if you're not doing it. Go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, up right navigational bar. For $25 for one calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com. In the meantime, and until Monday, Alex, have a fantastic weekend. Listeners, thanks. Be careful out there. Peace and love to everybody. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.